Hi, I'm Amanda. Welcome to A-Team Chic Chat. I'll be one of your hosts today, along with my good friend Wendy. And
Howdy.
and we're having tech issues, but we're going to make it through this one.
Every time.
Chic Chat is the place where we celebrate the perfect fusion of style and adventure. And Jeeps have long been synonymous with ruggedness, freedom, and the spirit of adventure. And who says women can embrace all of that and more?
That's right. And that's what Chick Chat's all about, by the way. So welcome and thanks for listening to Team A, because we're going to continue a little series that we started a while back. Yes, I had some work things I had to take care of, but we're back and better than ever, I think. So we're going to talk about spotting and how that's going to apply to you being a new driver. Maybe you're new to off-roading, and we're just going to break it down into a couple of segments here. So let's just dive in. Amanda, what do you think? Let's just go for it.
Yes, this is one of my favorite topics, and it's because I think part of what makes this dynamic so great is because we learn from each other. And I know that you are a fantastic spotter and I'm a fantastic spottee. And so I think
Perfect.
we'll be able to give a great perspective on this one.
I think it's going to be awesome. And thank you for that great kudos. But I do love spotting, and I do have a natural ability, according to my mentors, both my husband, Bill, and Don Alexander. So we'll see how it goes. But anyway, let's talk about it. So we're going to break this down into verbal commands on this episode, because I think that's what the majority of everybody out there uses. You can look at YouTube videos. You can hear people talking and giving verbal commands. That's how I look at it. And you've experienced that, I know. I'm sure you have been out on trails and heard some screaming happening. What I talk about is I love to see, I call it a husband and wife team. Usually when you go to a major obstacle, it's fun to get out and watch. Spotting is essentially, for those of you who are new, is someone else's eyes looking at your vehicle and how the wheels are tracking. We did talk about that on one of our last episodes of how those wheels track in picking a line. So that person is outside of the vehicle who is looking at how that Jeep is moving and progressing through the obstacle. Now, the obstacle can be super easy. It can be simple. It can have some very precise, I need to put my tires exactly where I need to put them. And you sitting in that driver's seat cannot see as well, right? And you know that, Amanda, when you get close to an obstacle, it kind of disappears, doesn't it?
Absolutely, it does. And inches can make the difference. So that's why you have to have that set of eyes outside.
Yeah. So having a good spotter is key to giving you the most and best experience on that trail. Now, as we talked before, not all spotters are created equal. Some are learning, some are progressing, some have been doing it forever, and that's how they do it. I'm relatively new on the scene, probably about 6-7 years, picked it up pretty quickly, but it has to do with, like I said before, tracking how the wheels and what they're doing, right? So your tires, when they're actually moving forward, I can see how that vehicle is going to track. And we talked about this before about tracking. It is how those tires actually move when you make turns or you adjust slightly. So the first thing I'm going to say about using a spotter is everything is done in very, very slow and tiny movements. So has anybody ever shared that with you, Amanda? Because I know that you have been spotted. Does anybody taken the time to explain why it's tiny movements?
Yeah. And I think with experience, you understand that a little bit more because, like I said earlier, inches make the difference, right? And just getting off that line a little bit could, number one, be disastrous. Number two, could take a ridiculous amount of correction to get back on the right line.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
So what we're going to talk about first is what we call verbal commands. Verbal communication allows the driver, I think, to kind of look away from the spotter. So you're going to see YouTube videos a lot where people are looking out their window to spot themselves, and that's fine too. But if you're going to use the spotter, then you need to use the spotter all the way through. Now, you as the driver, I've talked about, have a lot of power when you're driving your Jeep. It's your Jeep. If you are new or relatively new and you're not sure about it, this obstacle, get out and watch the spotter who's there getting people through. What are they doing? What are they saying? How are they getting the Jeeps through? A fairly good way to tell if a spotter is going to be decent is that if everybody gets through and nobody really gets stuck. Now, I say that with a caveat. As a spotter that I've been, there are times when I'm giving you the correct commands, but you don't follow them, and then you get yourself into a bind, right? So I'm going to say if you're watching somebody who is, constantly putting every single Jeep in the wrong line and they're constantly getting stuck, that's probably the spotter's fault. You have the choice to decide who's going to spot you. And Amanda, you wheel with a lot of people. Have you ever been in a situation where you thought, this guy really isn't giving me the commands I need, I'm going to use somebody else? Have you ever done that?
100%. 100% I have. And I think it's okay to just opt out. But like you were saying, if you start with a spotter, a lot of times, it's best to follow through. But if you see that it's not working out or something you don't feel comfortable with, just say, hey, so-and-so is going to spot me, or I got this one. I see the line. Right. Just communicate that. Yeah.
Yeah. I think too, sometimes when you're new, you're afraid to speak up or you're afraid to speak out. And you also don't know what you don't know. So it's okay to let that person put you through that obstacle. You're going to learn some things, but what you can do to make it more successful is to do everything in tiny, tiny increments. So when someone says driver, it doesn't mean to take your steering wheel and go full lock. It means to go very, very tiny, little tiny movements. Now, the spotter will ask you for more if they want it. And this is where I talk about the shouting matches sometimes. So a good spotter has major, major patience. If you're looking at somebody or watching somebody and they're screaming, I'd probably opt out and use somebody else. Like, I don't need to be screamed at. I'm here to have fun and enjoy my time, and I want to learn, especially being a newbie. So that would be one context where I would say maybe you want to find somebody else. Usually you're wheeling with somebody inside your Jeep who could actually be a better spotter than somebody who's standing out there screaming. So if you're listening and you're an experienced spotter, please don't scream at your newbies. It's not their fault. They're learning. So let's talk about this. Let me give you some examples of some verbal commands that are most often used. And I'll give a little brief explanation of them. And then we'll talk about why I don't necessarily care for those. I know it sounds funny, doesn't it? Probably 80 to 90% of everybody uses verbal, but I like nonverbal. And I'm going to explain that in a little bit. And then we're going to talk more in our next episode. So, all right, some examples. You're going to hear the word driver or turn driver. Essentially, what that means is that you want to turn your wheels toward the driver. So you are the driver. You have passenger, driver, and passenger. You want to turn that steering wheel toward the driver. Passenger would be the same, turning it toward the passenger or toward the passenger side of your Jeep. You may hear the word easy. That's used a lot too. That's meaning to go easy on the throttle or the brake. So if you're climbing, they may want you to go easy with that throttle as opposed to mashing it down. And also if you're coming downhill on that brake, you're going to hear that word a lot because as a spotter at the bottom of a hill, I need you to be on that brake. I do not need you to just, send it and then, take me out in the meantime. You may not hear control your rear a lot. I use this word a lot, because what that does is we talked about this. People go on a line and they get those front tires cleared and then they think I'm free. So I will use the command control your rear, because I want you to come down off that obstacle super, super slow and ease back off the rocks so that you're not bouncing off your bumper, or very well putting yourself in a bad position for the next obstacle. So you may hear the words control your rear. Again, I'm not sure I hear that a lot from a lot of people, but they may say easy on the back or come down slow, something like that. Now, one command that is universal in nonverbal and verbal is the word stop. It is very, very important that when you hear the word stop, you stop and freeze. Don't think it means somebody's outside of your vehicle to stop. If you hear this command, there is something going to happen, could be good or bad, and you need to stop the vehicle. We need that motion to stop. So what this means is it could be that you're slightly off. Maybe they said driver and you turned way too much driver. And they need you to stop because we've got to get it corrected before you completely pull the whole vehicle off the line. Maybe somebody, a kid, a dog, anything, got in the way that you can't see because you're focused on exactly what that spotter's telling you to do, but you're not being aware that there's things going on around you. Maybe a tree limb or a big rock gets twisted or turned and is now in your way that wasn't there. There could be a numerous amount of reasons that they would say stop, and you in the driver's seat may not be able to see it or know what's going on. So stopping is super important. You do not take your foot off the brake. Please do not reset